Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for October 5th. If you could, just a little housekeeping item, if you could turn your cell phones to silent, we would all really appreciate that. Remember not to speak until you get to the podium, and if you would, when you get here, give us your name and your address for the record, just so we have noted that your attendance. If you haven't filled out one of these little sheets that are on the table out front, please feel free to do that if you'd like to speak on a matter before the board today. And with those housekeeping announcements, I would call the meeting to order, and first item of business is to receive the minutes from the September 21st meeting.
I'd move that we receive them.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to receive the minutes from the September 21st, 2017 meeting. Please cast your votes, please. And the minutes are approved. Next order of business are continuance or withdrawal requests. I believe we have one from staff.
We have one continuance, item number 9, case number 14374, to defer to October 19, 2017.
A motion?
I'd move that we continue it.
There's not anything to be heard on this matter. Is that correct?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue case number 14374 to the October 19, 2017 meeting. Your votes, please. And the continuance is approved.
We have item number 1, case number 14402, request for a variance to parking and maneuvering on street right-of-way in the R1 single-family residential district located at 1901 Northwest 18th Street.
Is the applicant present? Please come forward.
My name is Phil Fitzgerald, 3900 North Santa Fe, Oklahoma City. This is hopefully a little more housekeeping. We submitted for a building permit to build a family life center several months ago. The city informed us that in plan review that our existing parking lot is encroached on the city right-of-way by 8 feet. And so it was mentioned to us that we needed to get a variance to continue this. The parking has been in place since 1995. We have found plans that were done on previous projects that show the parking lot there in 1995. And we met with Jeff Hines and Tom Wilson, and they had felt that they had taken care of it a long time ago, but nobody could find any records of it. And so we're here to ask for that variance that's been built since that time. We're not adding any parking, we're changing parking, so we're not really asking for, hopefully, just to continue the way it's been since the early 90s.
I would note for the record that Mr. Fitzgerald submitted a supplement to our report that included the statutory explanation of statutory variance requirements being met, so that was in your packets. Questions, board members? Is there anybody else here that wants to be heard on this matter today? Discussion, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve case number 14402, number 1.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to continue case number 14402. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 2, case number 14403, request for a variance to the 25-foot front yard setback and 65-foot special setback and the prohibition of buildings with metal facade in the Classen Boulevard Overlay District, C4 General Commercial and I2 Moderate Industrial Districts located at 1001 Northwest 6th Street.
Applicant present? Come on down.
Daniel Douthit with Garden Architects, representing Northline Development, 323 Northwest 9th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73103. It's a lot to remember. So what we have here is a shipping container development along North Classen. I think we have a pretty picture to start off with, hopefully, in that file. There we go, if everyone turns their head. Oh, perfect. So it's a bunch of shipping containers set along the frontage here. So as you can see from some of the other exhibits, most, if not all, the buildings in the existing area are a zero lot line development on both sides of Classen. We feel it's an undue burden to the owner to have to go above and beyond and have a 25-foot setback, since the established one is 0. The second thing we're here for is the quote-unquote metal panels on the shipping container. As you can see, most of the facade along Classen is storefront frames from this rendering. The metal panels are not indeed metal panels in the sense that they are a veneer, but they are a load bearing. To remove them would cause the container to collapse. Where we are removing sections of them, we have to go back in and shore up with steel tubes. So think of the metal panel as a load-bearing wall that's just corrugated.
We see a number of applications come forward that deal with what people refer to as architectural metal.
Correct.
We've seen those across all kinds of zoning-based districts and things. Out of curiosity, why would you come before this body for a variance? You've got two separate base zoning districts at play here. One of them is C4 general commercial and the other is I2. Your metal facade would be allowed in one, but not the other. So why wouldn't you file for a rezoning application here?
Simply time and cost. We didn't believe that these qualified as metal panels per the letter of the law and the zoning. It was only brought to our attention during building permit review. We knew we had the setback issue from the get-go, and that's the main reason we're here.
I guess what I would note for just other board members I know are aware of this, but the metal paneling is really an aesthetic concern, but it's also something that is a concern for a reason. I don't know that the intent of the code was to limit shipping containers. Whether they're structural or purely aesthetic, I don't know if that's particularly relevant. But as it is, there's regulations there for a reason, which is what concerns me a little bit.
How many shipping containers are on the part that's not permitted that you're asking the variance for? How many modules are you talking about?
27 40 by 8 modules, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 20 by 8. And then there's a small one that's going to be, you kind of see it in the middle of the rendering there, the blue one, just floating by itself. It's 10 by 8, and it will act as a new bus stop. We're relocating the bus stop that's currently on the corner of 6th and Classen to the middle of the site there.
Well, as I stated at the last meeting, I was not in favor of the one that was prohibited with the metal. The ordinance doesn't specifically address the shipping containers, but the intent is the metal, even though structure, these fit within the prohibition, and I don't see any of the statutory requisites being satisfied, notwithstanding the fact that one across the street is a different zoning. I think you would have to, I concur with the chairman that it would be better to do a zoning out.
And from a variance perspective, I don't know that I personally don't see an issue with you satisfying the requirements given sort of these opposing setback issues and things on Classen, and that's not the concern. I think what the concern is, at least from my vantage point, and I think what she's articulating as well, is that we're going to make a decision here that seems to somewhat frustrate what the ordinance was trying to prevent. I don't know that I can support an application that really should be a rezoning application. I think the legislative process sometimes is a little bit, and you can argue with me, that's fine. I mean, I'd love to hear it, but my position right now is that it doesn't make sense for you not to go through that process and let them take a look at that and ascertain that it's appropriate. And I think there's a little bit of confusion, at least as far as I'm concerned, with this Classen Boulevard overlay. I don't know that I'm particularly versed to understand what the intent of that was trying to be from staff, but it's here, and it would allow you in I-2, but it would prohibit you in C4. So what are your thoughts? Give me your feedback there.
Well, I think I've stated my case. I don't believe it's technically a metal panel. It is not a veneer. It is part of the structure. If I built a wall out of studs and put brick on it and made that same pattern, would we be having this conversation?
No, because it would be brick.
Right. But if I painted it white, I do not believe it falls under the requisite. I know what it was here for. It's to stop all the pre-engineered metal buildings with the cheap T-panels on them that everyone hates seeing in their neighborhood. And I agree with it. I don't want to see it in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask for a continuance on this issue. It doesn't seem like we're going to get 3 votes. We may amend the application later, but I'm going to ask for continuance right now. Thank you.
Can I ask what the purpose of a continuance would be? Do you intend to amend the metal
We are going to
aesthetic?
amend what we were going to ask for on this, just to be the setback, and possibly look at doing a veneer over the metal boxes to satisfy the requirements, or to rezone, as you have suggested.
Board members?
I have no objection to you striking one of them and just having the vote on the setback if you wanted to try to do that.
This is something I need to discuss with the owner. The charm of this project is that it still looks like a shipping container at the end of the day. That's why they wanted to do this. They're paying a premium to put these on the site. We could do a stick built for far less.
Just for the record, my position was I was in support of the application as it's submitted and still am today, and would be prepared to make a motion to approve this variance request.
And I would likewise approve it, so you don't have 3 votes. But I would make a motion that we continue this to another docket.
If Jeff or Kevin, would you, share your thoughts here?
Well, I guess my position with respect to this is this is a fairly unique item. It's not just a typical metal building. It's a fairly unique and specific item. It is load-bearing. It's not necessarily out of context with some of the other stuff around there, and that's kind of my feeling is it's unique, and it's not like we're saying everybody on the block can put up a metal building.
Basically concur. We've allowed this kind of construction in the city before. This is an urban, hip neighborhood. I mean, there's lots of development occurring in this area. I don't see this as inconsistent. The frontage on Classen is not just, you're not looking at shipping containers from the side. I mean, I just don't have an objection. And I think, this kind of development, this kind of look is consistent with, what's happening in this part of town. And I would see it, as an asset to the city and an asset to this part of town. The other thing, too, we've approved architectural metals. And even though this is not an architectural metal in the same sense that, a car dealership or, would have an architectural metal, it is still, I think, does not betray the intent of what he's describing as the sort of metal buildings that we do want to avoid. So in this case, because it's structural, because it's in a part of town where this look and this feeling and this demographic, I think, is going to reside, and I'm going to support the application.
I guess I'm just torn. My inclination is to want to support your application.
Right.
My friend, it's that I feel like what I'm doing is zoning work, not variance work, and I'm listening to you describe it, and I'm listening to them articulate their positions, and the truth is I think they're right. I just don't know that you've got the 4 elements met. So I would entertain a motion if you want to make it. We'll see where we go. That's what we're here to do is vote. So if you want to do that, we can do it. If you want a continuance, we're at your request.
The problem with the motion is if the motion fails, then what recourse does he have?
Well, if it's tied, correct me, but it's a continuance, correct?
Right, there's 3 votes are required for any action of the board, so if it's tied 2-2, it automatically.
Then it automatically, and we just set a new date for, I'll make a motion to approve the application.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14403. Please cast your votes, please. Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 3, case number 14404, request for a variance to permit parking and maneuvering on street right-of-way and to allow parking within 20 feet of a lot line abutting a residential district in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 4201 South McKinley Avenue.
Is the applicant present?
Martin Gallagher, St. James Parish, 421 South McKinley, and we have two variances. The new variance is for a buffer that adjoins the house, the fourth house that we have. It's encroaching the 20-feet buffer line, and the house is owned, it's the fourth house. The three houses that we've taken down is already a parking lot, and then the fourth house is owned by a parishioner. She's 97 years old, and we're not pushing her out of the house until she passes away. And so we're just asking for a variance to be able to park within 3 feet of her house along the drive that is now existing at that point. The other variance is for an existing parking lot, which is on the northeast side. It has about 14 or 15 parking spaces. And when it was built 50 years ago, the parking slots encroach the city easement. And so we're asking for variance for that. And that's the only two things we're asking.
Board members, comments, questions for the applicant?
So the intent regarding the proximity to the house is when the resident passes away?
Yeah, we'll take the house down. And we didn't want to move her out. She's lived there all her life, and she's a parishioner. And the children will give us the house when she passes away.
And she's okay with,
Yeah, she has no complaints about
and her
parking.
kids don't have a problem with
No,
it?
she has not complained to us about the parking.
Is there anybody here that wants to be heard on this matter today? We have someone who'd like to be heard. Please, you can come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Truman. I have lived in the area for 6 years. I live at 1226 Southwest 43rd Street. And my concern is, I have a couple of concerns.
Ma'am, would you pull that microphone down just a little bit? There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that better? Okay. I have a few concerns. One concern is about the dynamic of the neighborhood and the effects of my property value. When I moved into the neighborhood, I was delighted to see that it was a family-oriented neighborhood. You could walk your dogs up and down the street, wave to your neighbor. The three houses they've removed, I was told that they were given a 30-day eviction notice, and they were good people. Now I have a parking lot to look at outside my front porch. The amount of traffic that is flowing through our neighborhood has increased dramatically. It took me approximately 5 minutes to get out of my parking lot, or out of my driveway, a week ago because of attendance. And they disregard the speed limit driving down this residential street. I also have concerns about emergency vehicles being able to get through the area. I have brought some photos, if I may hand them off to you. Who would I give those to? The parking lot that they have now, where the three houses they removed, there is 2 exits to that parking lot. One exit exits out on McKinley, which would be, it would face east and face McKinley. The other exit of the parking lot exits onto 43rd Street. There's an arrow directing traffic to turn westbound down 43rd Street, when the closest main street would be McKinley to get to the 43rd Street, or they could go north to 36th Street instead of driving a parade down my residential street. I have another neighbor who's here also. He lives across the street from me, and he has had similar issues.
It would seem to me from the photographs, and I'm trying to just engage in conversation with you a little bit, that the parking expansion that they're asking for would help alleviate some of that concern. I'm assuming that's a concern for the church as well.
I'm presuming also, it's just when I bought my house, I am a homeowner, that I did not buy it for a parking lot for a view. And the 3 houses they removed, that's fine, that's not directly across from me. The home that they are waiting to get from Ms. Martinez, who he said that the children are going to turn over. Anytime I've inquired about it, it's like she is property when she dies. She is a friend, she's a very nice lady, and I just feel like vultures waiting on her to pass. They also own the house and have started deconstructing the home at 1221 Southwest 43rd, which is almost directly across the street from me, which if they in turn make that a parking lot or an exit to their parking lot, it's going to be directly across the street from me. I moved into a family residential area. This is my only concern. This is not what I bought as a homeowner. Was not expecting this. I understand the growth of the church. I respect that. I just wish that they would respect the intentions of the rest of the neighborhood.
Understood. Thank you very much.
May I offer to bring my another resident in, if he cares to speak?
Before you do, do you guys have any questions for the...
Now, you indicated, I would, for the record, you need to address the statutory standards in your discussion. The applicant needs to do that. But I don't think you had any objection to the existing 15 parking spaces, did you not, that have already been there?
I'm sorry?
You didn't have any objection to the application on the 15 parking spaces that have already been there, correct?
I was not aware. I must have overlooked the paperwork for that meeting, or...
Those parking, I believe those parking spaces, and if I've got these two, we have 2 applications that were very similar, but I believe these have been in existence for some time. Is that... Okay.
Okay. I was unaware.
Any other questions, board members? Is there anyone else who wants to be heard on this matter today? Come forward and give your name and address for the record for us, please.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
If you'd like to come forward and give his name and address for the record, sure.
I have a few questions, but I'm not really English to speak.
Understood.
Okay, I'm living on 1227 Southwest 43rd Street,
And what was your name?
Nicolas Guzman.
Okay.
Okay, I'm the owner of the house, but I'm scared, I'm concerned, like, I'm scared that if the church take it down, all the houses, if I don't want to sell, if you're in the middle to the parking lot, something like that, you know. Y que atrás de mi casa, ellos tienen un bote de basura y hay muchas ratas.
He said that in the back of his fence, in the backyard, that they have like a dumpster back there and there's rats growing in there everywhere. That they try to go in his house and there's just a whole bunch of rats in his backyard with that dumpster that's back there.
Y que tengo miedo que si ellos tumban las casas y hacen el parking, que si alguien se puede meter a chingar a mi familia, ¿no? Como a robar.
He's saying that they dropped down all the other houses and his house is the only one on there. That he's scared, that when he goes to work and his wife's there alone, that someone could try to get into the backyard and take something. His wife's going to be there alone.
Okay. Real quick, what is your name and address for the record?
Well, I don't live there. I live
I know,
on
but-
Southeast 23rd.
And what's your name?
Carlos Perez,
Okay, and your address is?
128 Southeast 23rd.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? Thank you very much. Thank you. Discussion or questions for the applicant? Do you want to address those?
We are, if you look at the Southwest 43rd Street, we are planning in the 10 years from now to have, we own most of those houses along 43rd Street, and we're trying to alleviate the parking on the street by making, all of that will be parking lot eventually.
When you say 43rd Street, do you mean the north side of 43rd Street
Yeah,
that abuts
that
your
that
property
abuts that
currently?
property. So that is the future plan, to take all those houses so we can get the parking off the street. And our church is growing. I mean, some churches don't grow, I guess, but we've been growing the last 5 years, and that's the reason that we need the more parking. So,
Board members, comments?
I would just say for the neighbors that came to speak on this matter, that your concerns are of interest to us. One thing that I think we're hearing the church saying is they understand that the street parking certainly creates congestion and a hardship when you live across the street from the church and you're trying to get in and out of your driveway safely. Part of the application today allows them, if we approve this variance request, to keep some parking that they have now, which actually helps keep more cars off the street. The applicant is indicating, too, that the homes that are on the north side of 43rd Street, they own those, and their intention is, over time, to remove those homes and to create more parking space. They want to be able to provide parking space in a safe parking lot for their congregants and not be parking on the street.
Yep.
But the future plans, I believe, are for the church are to acquire those properties. So that what they want is, as their church has grown, they want to be able to provide parking in a parking lot and not have their congregants on the street where they know that it creates a hardship for the adjoining neighbors. So your concerns are heard, and I think any of us that lived in a situation like that would share your concerns. If there's no more discussion, I'm going to make a motion to approve the application.
Motion's gonna fail for lack of a second. Do we have another motion?
Is it too late to have some more discussion?
Not at all.
There are concerns of I think that, now part of, I think their application dealt with existing, is that correct? It's on the right-of-way and it's been there for some time. That certainly isn't a problem. I mean, because I think although you didn't fully execute your standards on that issue, I understand that's been a hardship and it's been going on. You've had it for years. The other is the traffic control from the lot. I thought they were talking about issues regarding, just residential safety and traffic from that. So I was just curious how that was going to be addressed. She had some arrows, and mainly it's on the street, is her objection, though. But still, she had some arrows in the...
I'll give my take on this. I am certainly sympathetic to the argument that we have a primarily residential district that this church essentially is positioned in the middle of. At the same time, I think something that I would just, whether or not you agree with this is not the point, but an R1 district allows for this use. And this is a use that has existed here for a very long time. And again, one of the two variances that they're here for, this has been something that they've utilized for a very long time, as the applicant testified to. And so certainly that's an obvious case where a variance is appropriate. I think on the second side of this, there's a bigger issue here when looking at the photographs that you provided, in that we've got people that line both sides of a street on a street that was never intended to, and we've had a use that exists within the neighborhood for many years. So the reality is that these people are going to coexist in the same area. The church isn't going to move, and it's still going to be a neighborhood, and I think that's part of that neighborly relationship that you guys have to maintain. In my view, these variances are appropriate. I think if you look at the statutory conditions, in my view, I think that they're satisfied, and I'm certainly inclined to support the application. But I do understand the concern of feeling like the church continues to encroach within the neighborhood, but it's a reality that neighborhood is going to continue to face. The applicant owns many other properties along that stretch of road, and their intention is to continue to expand. If you need to make comments, you'll have to come back to the mic. If you want to address the board, you'll need to come back. But
He owns a home on the north side of the street that they will be wanting to acquire. This is his family's home. I don't think you intended on living there and then moving. That's where his home is. Will they build around his home if he does not sell?
assuming that they operate within the confines of the code, they can build on the property that they own.
Up to how close?
That's all defined by the code, and I can't, it's not a matter but that's before the board today.
No, you don't have to sell. Would that be another meeting?
That's not something that's within our purview either. Private issues between residential property owners is not something that the board is in a position to consider as a part of the application. So.
Do you know, well, can I ask, that I know, you can tell me, when he tried to continue with the construction, or so that way I can start finding another house or move over, whatever.
I wish I could give you a good answer there, but I can't.
Sir, that's really not within our purview, but there are many good lawyers, and there's happens to be one sitting here today, that for a few minutes they can give you lots of advice that will be very helpful.
I can reluctantly second the motion. I think the standards have been met. I just wish that that there will be some cooperation with the applicant and the neighbors to facilitate a better flow of traffic, because once the property's acquired, you're only getting the buffer. The other was already in place for many years. So I think I would second that motion to approve, but I would like to ask the applicant, that's not in our purview, but is a cooperation effort. It would be, I would really like the applicant to get with landowners and lessees and kind of work things out a little bit.
I think the applicant, the church understands that it's a neighbor and that's a community, and I think there's not a reluctance there to have dialogue, and I would encourage you to have dialogue with them as it relates to things that concern you about what's going on in the neighborhood. I know that that's not where they live necessarily, but they're certainly a part of that community, and I think would be more than willing to engage with you in those types of discussions. You should voice your concerns to them.
Yeah.
So
noted, it has been, I have noted my concerns.
Yep.
What else was there?
Ma'am, I've got a motion and a second pending before the board, so at this point I'm going to call for a vote. I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14404 for the variances. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pictures, may I retrieve my pictures back?
Item number 4, case number 14405, request for a variance to the number of monument signs allowed in the R4 General Residential District located at 500 Central Park Drive.
Is the applicant present today?
My name, excuse me. My name is Tim Rowland, 2335 40th Road, Wetmore, Kansas 66550. I represent the ownership of Lincoln at Central Park. That sign is the back entrance. The photo is the sign at the back entrance.
Okay, that was the only one I had.
Oh, that's right. Look, and I can show you.
A picture of the, so
Yeah,
wait, the sign
yeah.
that's in our packet is not,
That it is, but it's the same sign, but that's at the back entrance, and the front entrance has one of those on each side. Would you like to?
yeah, if you could, I think we'd like to see it. So these signs are in existence today?
Yeah, if you notice, the one in the photos on the right has the letters on it, the one on the left does not have letters.
Okay, all right, okay, I'm with you now, I'm with you. Yep.
And what we did is, we were renovating the complex, repaired the siding and fixed brick and painted it and everything, and aesthetically, we had removed the letters from those signs, and in doing so, went to put them back on and asked the sign contractor to, of course, pull permits to do that. And when they did, we found out that we could only put one set of letters up because it states that we can only have one per entrance. We didn't realize that the existing ones were not, within the, it varied from the current code. So we've asked for a variance because what we found out when we did this is we put the letters on the right side, we had to pick left or right, we picked right, and what we were, and I've got this second and third hand information. When someone comes in, like EMS or something, that because of the office building there and the flow of the traffic, especially in the afternoons and the mornings, if they pull in, there's no lettering that tells them where they're at. And they were like, we would like for you to get that back up. Why aren't you putting that back up? And I said, well, we can only put one up. So we've asked for a variance so we could put that up so they could see that. And also, if we rounded up the square footage, I believe it's 100 square foot on that type of sign. We rounded up the square footage. If we square it off, it's 55. If we just do the letters, within 40, so we would be within the square footage of the current, but we rounded off to, do the perimeter. So, we feel it's so confining, and it was there existing, we'd like to put it back.
Is there anyone here that wants to be heard on this application today? Board members, questions or comments for the applicant?
I'd move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14405. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is approved.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Item number 5, case number 14406, request for a variance to the maximum 1,250 square feet for an accessory structure in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 1233 North Ann Arbor Avenue.
Hi, I'm Roberto Luera Lopez. I'm on 1233 North Ann Arbor, Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And I'm here for the variance. I just bought the house last year, and there was an existing building that I guess I heard that it's been there for over 20 years or so. And I extended 900 square feet more because I use it as a barn to store some hay and feed for my cow. And when the weather is bad, I put a cow inside. That's because of the weather. And that's the reason I extended it more, because I thought it was too small. And I'm sorry, and I didn't get a permit because I didn't put concrete, and I didn't know that I needed a permit still, even if I'm not putting concrete on it.
Mr. Lopez, what else do you do besides keep a cow? What else? What do you do for trade?
I just keep the cow and, basically basic tools, like what I use for the maintenance of the house. It's 1.25 acres, so I need some tools for that, to maintain.
Okay. Is there anyone here today that wants to be heard on this matter?
Yes.
We have somebody who'd like to be heard, so please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Are you Kenneth Brown?
My name is Kenneth Brown. My wife and I own the two properties directly south of this one. Our properties are at 1209 and 1211 North Ann Arbor. So the 3.5 acres that are directly south of his property.
So you share an adjacent property
Yes.
line with him? Okay.
Right. Our fence line, we share the fence line on the south side. By the way, let me give you a copy. I wrote it a little bit more than I'm going to say early just for the time. We've considered the presence of the buildings. The shed that he enlarged, it was there whenever we bought our property 20 years ago. And I talked to the previous owner of 1211, and he said it was there whenever he bought it. So it's been there since at least 1992. So the placement has actually been, he added on to it, but the placement has always been on the property line. Actually, it used to be over the property line, and whenever the previous owner sold the property, she moved the property line 2 feet or 3 feet in order for that shed to actually all be on one property. So it's an existing structure. As you can see, it's a rural area, and most of my neighbors have some type of animals, either horses, cattle, sheep, chickens. And because of the type of community it is, because of people having the livestock, because of having the animals, yes, I understand it's R1, and I understand the 1,200-foot limit. But at the same time, in order to maintain the type of operations that most of my neighbors have between their animals, some of them have large gardens, to maintain those type of properties, they have to have more structures than what a typical, obviously, neighborhood would have. He has chickens, he has a few cattle, and we have no problem whatsoever with what he has there. It's really up and down the street. It's pretty typical.
Mr. Brown, south of this area is pretty industrial. I mean, Ann Arbor as a rule is pretty industrial. And this little pocket before you get north to 10th are these kind of larger, kind of what I would call holdover estate lots from when development came through the first time.
I'm sorry.
My question for you is, when we look at these things, one of the things we look at is the nature of the area, and you by supporting this, let's just assume for a second that this would be granted. Every case is looked at individually, but you're establishing a precedent here. And one of the things we see neighbors come before this board and say on a regular basis is they're operating a business from this location. They're running a business out of here. This is not for that purpose. And these bigger buildings typically are requested by those types of people. Does that concern you as a neighbor that you're kind of setting a precedent for that in your neighborhood?
I'm not seeing it as a business. I'm seeing it as a farming operation. And in that context, it fits with, The property across the street is, I think, 5 acres. He runs a fruit stand.
What is
sell
it? Is that the
veggies.
property that looks almost like it almost looks like frankly, a self-storage facility to the east? Is that what that is?
I'm sorry, to the east.
Across?
There is a storage, the old railroad right-of-way that used to go between 10th and 16th, east of the properties. You can't really see the railroad right-of-way, but there was a railroad right-of-way there that extends from 10th to 16th, and that has been turned into a storage company where he has people park trailers back there, RVs, et cetera.
Interesting.
So the property on the corner of Ann Arbor and 10th is now a plumbing shop. So there are some other businesses in there. But what he's doing with the type of animals that he has, obviously he doesn't have pigs. I mean, we've had a few donkeys in the neighborhood that get kind of noisy. But really, I mean, it's kind of like when we moved in, as I comment on the last paragraph, when we moved in 20 years ago, you know, we considered the type of area that we were moving into. If we wanted to live in an area that didn't have animals and didn't have the sound of equipment running, if we didn't want to live in that neighborhood, we would have moved somewhere else.
I understand.
And to some extent, when someone moves into that area, they can, you know, they look at the property, they look at the aerials, as I did, and they know what type of area they're moving into. I mean, we have far more problems with the apartment complex behind us, the plumbing shop that used to work on race cars at 11 o'clock at night. Those type of things we have problems with. But this type of thing, we don't have problems with.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Board members?
I have a photograph of this in our packet.
I don't believe so. I can tell you, interestingly enough, there is a property south of the subject that the accessory building there, as opposed to the photo we were providing in our packet, has been enlarged pretty significantly. There are a number of buildings in this area that are certainly comparable in size to what the applicant is proposing.
Maybe the applicant had a photograph or a
Yes.
file for the record.
Yes.
Evan.
If there's no questions for me, I'll sit back down.
Oh, no.
Other questions from board members at this point? Yeah. I would note for the record, we did receive a letter of objection in our packets dealing with the idea that we're doing construction cleanup out of the property.
And I think what the chairman was trying to make the point a little bit ago is that over time, that this is probably going to evolve into more of a business use. People are going to take that property and the fact, you know, that they can build a structure of this size, and they're not going to do what you're doing. It's going to be a business. And so it may not be objectionable to live next to somebody that has, you know, a modest amount of livestock and a large garden and so forth and so on. But I think it's just a matter of time before there are fewer of those, and you will be living next door to a business, which may not be as acceptable as having a neighbor that's more like a rural setting. So that's the downside of approving and allowing these outbuildings to get larger and larger and larger as it becomes more and more attractive for a business. Somebody that does welding or, you know, has equipment to store and things like that and needs. So I'm going to support the application.
You are going to support the application?
Yes. But with that caveat that I think, you know, it's just a matter of time. And I think, you know, noting the letter of objection, if there's noise and if there are other activities on your property that disrupt the peace and quiet that the neighbors are entitled to, then they have recourse. And I would, remind any citizen that if a neighbor is being disruptive, that you simply exercise your recourse to have, the police or somebody else come out and point out to you. You have the right to live on your land and be there. You do not have the right to be disruptive or to have activities that are disruptive to the neighbors around you.
Can I say something? I think I know who would actually send the letter, because when I bought the house last year, the lot next to me, to the north side, was from the same owner. And actually, the guy that bought the lot wanted the same, he wanted to keep the barn, and there was no way that he wanted to keep it because it was on my side. And I've been having trouble because of that, because he wanted the barn. So I'm assuming that's probably the guy that is.
Okay. Motion?
I can't support, I was just saying, I can't support the additional, the add-on that he had that's with the dirt floor. We've had other cases like this, and what might be in the future we would have approved. And I just don't think there's anything unique or peculiar about this particular property. Staff said, I'm just letting the board know about.
I will take a motion. Either way.
I'll make a motion to support the application.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14406. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 6, case number 14407, request for a variance to the building material and accessory sign square footage in the NC Neighborhood Conservation District located at 500 Northwest 28th Street.
Please come forward, give your name and address for the record, and tell us about your application.
Brian Hunter. I'm with Fitzsimmons Architects. 2721 North Walker Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73103. We have a new restaurant in the Paseo District. We have 2 variances we're requesting. The first one is a sign variance. It's to increase the maximum area of the attached sign from 6 square feet, which is a little small to be useful, and we want to make it 20 square feet, which matches the maximum area for the windows and awnings requirement in the same district. UDC did vote to recommend approval of this variance. And the second one was for tinted glass, that we are requesting a variance from tinted glass to use blue colored glass in small accent openings into the bar to differentiate and create ambiance from the dining area. And UDC also voted to recommend approval of this variance.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application today? Board members?
Could we go back to the slide that showed the rendering of the sign? One slide back. Are there 2 exposed faces on the sign?
Correct, yes.
And the lettering on one side says?
Well, it says, on both sides it says Frida, which is the name of the restaurant.
The allowed square footage is 6?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, JJ, but I mean, it's essentially 6 square feet for an attached sign. But if they were to use an awning or a window sign, it would allow for 20 feet.
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, I support your application. If there's any discussion here, I mean, to me, it seems fairly obvious that this is like somewhat of an ordinance that I'm not sure it understands what it's trying to accomplish. You're not asking for anything more than you'd be allowed to do if you put it on an awning or a window. There's no one here that feels like that's going to be a detriment to the area. Seems like a reasonable request to me.
I'd move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and approval to, or a second to approve case number 14407. Would you cast your votes, please? And the application is approved.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 7, case number 14408, request for a variance to the number and size of accessory signs in the O2 General Office District located at 9600 Broadway Extension.
Hello, my name is Mark Galliard. Address is 9600 Broadway Extension. I'm the CEO for McBride.
My name is Julie Muller. I'm at 2805 Summit Drive, and I'm the marketing director.
The request today is, needless to say, you've probably seen construction going on at the Broadway and Britain Road. Our hospital has been located there since 2005. We're moving all our operations from the Midtown location, including our clinic, our business office, our marketing, everything that we do in multiple buildings downtown, we're moving it connected to the hospital. One of our struggles is that we're also adding an MRI, physical therapy is moving, that we're having difficulty making sure that patients will not be confused to where to go. And the campus is fairly significant now with the parking lot and et cetera, that we're just trying to make it easier for patients that are having knees replaced, hips replaced, et cetera, not to go into the wrong side of the building and then have to either go back to their car or walk around or et cetera. So that's the reason for our request for the signage.
If you would, walk me through the signage a little bit. So, I mean, we've got a number of drawings. We're told that there's 11 new signs. Walk me through these images we've got here, if you would. Cindy, would you go to the very first one? Just kind of walk me through the placement of these signs and what their purpose is.
And also, we have a number of items that are duplicated, like we have 2 dietary departments, now a cafe, a restaurant, we have 2 receiving docks, and et cetera. So.
And with the addition of the MRI, we now have 2 MRIs. So currently the campus has the monument signage that is, I'll call breadcrumb signage, that gets them off of Broadway and the Broadway Extension Service Road, and then also off of Britain onto Oklahoma Avenue, then onto the campus. So we expanded, as Mark said, significantly. So we've added a southeast parking lot, a north parking lot, and then the main parking lot now, which is on the main, right in front of the main entrance. So all of those are on the east side, which means now for people coming off of Oklahoma or off of Broadway Extension, they have to basically navigate to the areas that they need. Again, all of these patients, in the most part, they've either had surgery, facing surgery, et cetera, so it comes down to being able to find and then the ability to get there because of their physical issues. So as far as the breadcrumbs, I mean, we have to, because of locations, our ER faces Broadway Extension, our main entrance has an east face, so we have to basically get these folks from any point of entrance to the main entrance, where we have a connector that connects both the hospital and the clinic, but we also have a north entrance where physical therapy is located. So we're taking almost 100 years of existence.
This is the north entrance being the entrance that is labeled, looks like it's labeled Northeast 97th off of Oklahoma. So you come off of Oklahoma onto Northeast 97th and turn south.
You can also get to it from the
you get to it from the Broadway Extension Service Road?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And there's actually 4 to 5 entrances to the building.
Yep.
2 main with canopies, which is the main entrance and the north entrance.
So where is this, the sign we were looking at, where is that sign? I mean, I don't have anything that shows me where these signs are going. So tell me where these signs are going.
So as far as, depending upon what the verbiage is on the sign, will basically dictate where it is. And so that first sign that was located.
The one that's up now? That's on the screen behind, in front of you there?
The main entrance and patient visitor parking.
So the main entrance, patient visitor parking, is a monument sign that should be coming off of the Broadway Extension.
Okay, where approximately on your site plan
Here's the site plan.
is this sign located?
So the building, are you all able to see in front of you? Just
We have a
for-
screen in front of us as well.
Okay, so where we're looking right now, where you see the majority of parking spaces, et cetera, that's Oklahoma Avenue off of Britain. So when you are on the opposite side, then you're coming off the Broadway extension. So
If you would you stay at the microphone just so we're
I'm so sorry.
capturing what
Do
you're
you
saying?
see where it says North Santa Fe Avenue? It's in
Yes.
the far left corner. That should be where it indicates to go to the main entrance, because we are located right next to the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. So that North Santa Fe is basically an alleyway that goes between us and the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. On that side is the pre-existing hospital, and our emergency room is located facing Broadway Extension.
So this sign is, is roughly 4 feet wide. It's a little over 4 feet wide, and it's a little under 4 feet tall.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And then are the rest of the sign packages the ones that have kind of what I would call two-post signs? Are those wayfinding signs within the campus?
Correct.
Okay. And how many of those of the 11 are there? Is that 6 of them, 8 of them?
There are total there's pre-existing signs already in place, and then with our total number, should be 8 new ones, and I think we have a total of 2 larger ones. That is our representative from Fast Signs who is doing our signage.
We respect not having a ton of signs. I mean, not only does it make it difficult, it doesn't look good.
Well, we understand. And
we've tried to minimize it as much as possible.
We see, although each application stands on its own, we see these applications for large campuses a lot. The irony here, as you'll recall, is we had one before us a couple of years ago to your neighbors to the north who wanted the exact same thing.
No, to correct you, theirs was the tall sign. The only one we objected to was the tall sign.
Not the wayfinding sign.
On Broadway Extension, not the, we supported their wayfinding.
And the wayfindings are similar to those, is that
Yes,
correct?
and those are currently on their campus.
Which we supported. We said absolutely, so there's no confusion between the two properties. That's something we supported.
Okay. Okay, so we have one new monument sign out front that's large, and then the rest of them are wayfinding signs.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
I'm going through, yes.
Board members?
I couldn't get in the back because it's blocked off to see all your development. I guess it's still under construction. But I know it's important, always important for schools and hospitals to have proper signage to get you to the various places. And it's difficult enough in that medical community complex that it's kind of awe-inspiring going just down the access road. So
There's 3 more projects that's going to be going up there, which is going to make it even more difficult.
I'm just wondering, it kind of looks like a big Lego set now with everybody out there. But I can support it, and I would like to make a motion if no other member has any comments to support it.
Is there anyone else here that would like to be heard on this matter today? Is that a motion?
Yes.
I have a motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14408. Please.
We also, I think, had a request about the west elevation on the building.
Our name on the building, because right now it's nondescript and doesn't have an identifier. It's our new building, the 3-story structure.
Is that one of the 11 totaling 230.31?
No, that's an additional. And if we need to come back and discuss it, the purpose of that is we received multiple comments about, is that your building? We thought it was the neighbor's building, et cetera. So we were trying to identify that that was our building by just putting our hospital name on it. And if we need to come back, since I'm not sure.
Covered. It's not in the application before us today. So,
bring it back.
Okay, do you still want us to move forward here?
Yes, sir.
Then I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14408. Please cast your votes, please. And your application is approved.
Okay.
Did you have another question?
Thank you.
No? Good, okay.
Item number 8, case number 14409, request for a variance to the maximum sign display area, sign height, and to permit banner signs in the C3 Community Commercial and I2 Moderate Industrial District located at 7624 West Reno Avenue.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here today on behalf of the applicant. Also with me are various folks from the Outlet Mall, as well as our sign contractor. The Outlet Mall, as you may or may not know, has undergone a change of ownership recently, and with that, the new owners are looking to rebrand the mall. And with that is going to come a series of new signage packages, and one of the things I want to do here today is not only walk you through the variances that we need, but also just an overall view of all the signs that you'll see, as well as the new branding, in an effort to make this as smooth as possible based upon the last application, which struck me as very similar. What you'll have before you is a booklet in which are tabbed. You'll see letters. The corresponding letters match up with the site plan before you, so you'll be able to see exactly where our signs are going. For reference, on the north is Reno, on the west is Council. This is our ring road, so south of this site plan would be I-40. And I will note when what I'm asking you is going to require variance. Some of the things that we're showing you don't require variance, but because we are rebranding the mall, we wanted to take the opportunity to show you what we're doing. So following along in our package, signs A and B. These are signs that will require a variance. These are the tall pylon signs. These two pylon signs were granted a variance several years ago to be at 65 feet tall, except in that approval there was a limitation that the text of the signs could not be above 50 feet. I'm not sure why that came about. What we seek to do today is to request a variance to allow some of the text to be above the 50-foot line. The only text that we're moving is going to be the text, if you're following along in your booklet, that says OKC Outlets. So the original intent of the tenants and the advertising portion of the sign being at 50 feet will still remain. We're going to use the same structures. We're simply asking to move the branding of the mall itself from the bottom, which if you've driven by, you've probably never seen it, to the top so that it can actually be visible.
You don't have any history on the rationale for why that was put into place, why they were allowed a 65-foot sign but not allowed to put signage on it?
No, I was not. I did not represent that applicant, so I can't speak to it. JJ might.
As I recall, it was just one of the board members. They could only get his support for the 65-foot tall signs if they agreed to not put any signage above the maximum 50-foot mark.
So we feel like we're still kind of adhering to that in that none of our tenant signage. It's simply the branding of the mall itself. And frankly, the thing that sticks out the most when you look at it are the letters OKC. So we think it will allow perhaps the traveling public to better recognize, one, what the mall is, and hopefully that it's in Oklahoma City. The lines are kind of blurry as you go out west, as we all know. But that is one of the elements of variance that we do need. And then as we move along,
what would be to keep you from putting something different on the signage other than OKC Outlets? Like what would keep us from having Express up there at some point?
The conditions of the variance.
Okay.
Signs C and D, which are located, D is located here on Reno, C is located out on Council. These are vehicular entry signs. These have actually already been permitted, so they don't need a variance. But what you'll see is it's in keeping with the same branding that you'll see throughout this. The signs that were currently there, the square footage isn't changing. The shape of them is changing. If you've ever driven in that area, you almost just drove right by these signs because the square footage was elongated rather than going vertical. So two signs, D and C, again, C being on Council, D being on Reno. That will serve as the entryway signs for vehicular traffic. E through J.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm trying to follow along. with a lot of this at the same time you're talking. It's just, I'm not that smart. C and D are existing.
No, no.
C and D are not existing.
These will be new signs.
New signs,
They've
got it.
already been permitted through the city. All of these signs will be new in that the pylon, the structures are there, but it's a new sign.
But it's sign allowed, it's sign allowed within the zoning code, not something you're asking, okay, got it.
That is correct. And some of the uniqueness that this mall creates and why we have to get variances, as you'll see later, because it's an outdoor mall and there's no roof, some signs that would never require a permit because there is no roof on the mall now require a permit. And so you've just got a lot of odd things at play that, frankly, we want to be as open and honest and show you everything we got so that if there's ever a question later, we've addressed everything.
When you get there, give us an example of, point that out.
Yeah, we can just jump right to it. If you go to Q and R, and this will require variance because it's a banner, and in the code there's a prohibition against banners. And if you look at where these are located, it's Q right here and R right here. It's as you're between two buildings walking through that corridor. And if you look, all it'll be is stretched material that says OKC. But for this being an outside mall, that wouldn't need a variance or a permit. But because it's outdoors, it's a, quote, banner. Now, if you look at that little image in the top right-hand corner of your booklet, we're using the existing poles. We're simply stretching a banner that says OKC, but the prohibition against banners is what requires us to be before you today seeking these variances.
If this were Penn Square Mall, this would just be a sign inside.
Right. That's correct. So it's a bit odd and it's a bit unique because of that. But Q and R, these are two of the signs that do require a variance because we are varying the general prohibition against banners. But as you can see, the only purpose for the banner is to, again, go with that same branding theme and have the letters OKC on there. So as we move E through J, these are a series of directional signs that are spread out, again, kind of throughout the complex that are interior to the mall footprint. We do not believe these need a variance at this point, but what you'll see is it's just a series of directional signs that will show you where the various retailers are within the mall complex. K and L, these are vehicular wayfinding directional signs, and for reference, you've got K is up here, and L is right here. So while you're traveling down the main ring road, you can see which way you need to turn to go to whatever retailer you seek to go to.
And just to confirm, because that print's a little, those are slated to be 10 feet tall?
Correct. That is correct.
But 6 feet, 4 inches of that is sign face?
Correct. And these don't need a variance. M through P are going to be your pedestrian wayfinding signs that are attached to light poles. Again, interior to the mall so that you can see which retailer and which direction you need to go. We did already discuss Q and R, which again are those banner signs. And finally, W, which again will now be an item we do need a variance for. We are, again, the same branding theme, painting the wall OKC. And so that will be considered an attached sign pursuant to the code, therefore require a variance.
Is that the issue with the maximum display area?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, so if you look at what the code allows, it's 625 feet of frontage. Why that creates a hardship here in this case is we've got a excessively large complex. And not, aside from that, we have excessive setbacks from I-40 and Reno. And so 625 feet just simply won't do it. It won't cut it for the traveling public. And the ability to have a sign that is in scale with the rest of this building is very important for aesthetic reasons. And so with that, we'd like a variance to allow us to paint OKC on the side of the buildings. So that's the entirety of our sign package. We do believe that when you consider the ordinance as a whole as applied to a large complex like this, it creates some unique hardships that we face. We feel that all the signage is within the scale and in keeping with the level of quality that this mall represents for the city. And we think it's an ability to, frankly, enhance the city as the traveling public goes by. So with that, be happy to answer any questions and would ask for your support.
So just to summarize, the variance is before our board today, the maximum sign display area, which are the OKC signs that are painted onto the wall, correct?
Correct.
The sign height, which is the alteration of, they're not changing the sign, they're changing the height of the print on the sign, correct?
Correct.
From 50 feet to the 65 feet or whatever the sign height is. And to permit the banner signs that you showed us that simply also brand the mall. I'm sure you'll put other things up there, but they're interior to the complex, they're not.
That's right.
Okay.
Also, you're asking us to remove the condition placed in the other variance, is that correct?
Yeah, so essentially what we're doing is asking for a variance to have sign height above 50 feet, but our sign height above 50 feet is as it's depicted in your booklet. That
So
being,
you're asking it to be reconsidered. You don't want the condition removed, you want the new variance granted, is that right?
right, because the square footage isn't changing, it's just placing what's on bottom on top.
JJ, is it correct what Mr. Brock said, that the sign, if this is approved, all that could be placed there is the name of the complex or the mall itself?
I think you should, if you're uncomfortable, make that a condition of the variance.
And we're fine with that.
I think they're fine with that.
Okay. Board members, other questions or comments?
I drove back out to the mall. It had been a while since I'd been out there, and this sign package that you're proposing, I think, is a very much needed and overdue upgrade, and I think it will greatly enhance that property, and so I'm going to support your request.
Is that a motion?
Can be if there's no more discussion.
To be clear, is your motion inclusive of the condition, or are you just making a motion to approve the application as drafted?
I'm making a motion to approve the application as drafted.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14409. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is approved.
Thank you very much.
Next order of business is additional items, which there has never been, and I'm guessing aren't today. Seeing no additional items, communications and reports, municipal counselor. Not today. Are there citizens to be heard? Seeing that, if there's no other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please cast your votes, please. And we are adjourned.